When you're staring at a wall of glossy ads for high-end home theater kits, the first thing that pops into your mind is usually a question like, will this actually make a difference in my living room, or am I just spending a lot of money on a fancy box? That hesitation is real, especially when you've probably tried a couple of cheap soundbars that sounded good in a showroom but fell flat once you plugged them in at home. I'm here to walk through the Bose Lifestyle V35 system piece by piece, looking at how it fits into everyday life, where the money goes, and who should walk away without clicking add to cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the V35 isn't just another set of speakers you toss on a bookshelf. It's a 5-speaker surround sound package that includes 2 floor-standing dual cube speakers, 2 rear bookshelf modules, and a compact center channel that doubles as an AM/FM tuner. The whole thing is built around Bose's reputation for creating immersive audio that's supposed to feel like being inside the movie. The claim is tempting, but the real test is how it behaves once the boxes are out of the bag and into a typical family room. The setup process is where many high-end systems trip up new buyers, but the V35 tries to keep it simple. When you power everything up, an on-screen wizard walks you through speaker placement using visual cues on your TV. It tells you where the left, right, and center speakers belong, and even suggests optimal positions for the rear speakers based on the size of the room. In practice, that means you can get a decent layout without hiring a professional. I found the instructions clear enough that I could finish the entire placement in about 30 minutes, and the system automatically calibrates the levels for each channel. The only hidden trade-off is that you do need a bit of wall space for the dual cubes. Each one is a tall, sleek column that looks great but can be a little imposing in a smaller apartment. Once calibrated, the day-to-day use feels surprisingly straightforward. The remote has an LCD display that shows the source, volume, and which speaker mode you're in, so you don't have to guess whether you're watching a movie in surround or just listening to a radio station. The inclusion of an AM/FM tuner might feel like a throwback, but for anyone who still enjoys local radio, it's a neat add-on that most modern soundbars ignore. There's also a dock that holds an iPod or iPhone, turning the system into a pseudo-wireless speaker for your personal music library. I tested it with a shuffled playlist from an old iPhone, and the sound filled the room without any noticeable latency, which is something you don't always get from Bluetooth-only solutions. Now, the V35 really shines when you pair it with a 3D TV or a Blu-ray player that supports 3D. Bose markets the system as 3D compatible, meaning the audio channel layout matches what the picture is doing, so you get directional cues that enhance the depth perception. In a test movie with a spaceship sequence, the rear speakers actually threw the engine roar to the back of the room, and the center speaker kept dialogue anchored. For a family that watches a lot of action or sci-fi, that can make a big difference in immersion. However, if your primary use is streaming Netflix or YouTube on a 2D screen, you'll still get solid surround sound, but the extra 3D processing doesn't add much tangible value. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the system's ability to handle music as well as movies. Because the dual cubes are full-range drivers, they reproduce low-end frequencies without the need for a separate subwoofer. In a listening session with a classic rock album, the bass was tight enough to feel present without overwhelming the mids. That said, if you're an audiophile who expects a thunderous subwoofer punch for EDM or modern pop, you might find the V35's low end a bit restrained. The solution would be to add an external sub, but that adds cost and complexity, which defeats the all-in-one promise the package makes. The remote's LCD also shows a movie mode toggle that adjusts the overall tonal balance for cinematic content, and a music mode that lifts the mid-range for vocal clarity. Switching between them is instant, which is handy if you jump from a movie night to a dinner playlist. On the downside, the system doesn't support true Dolby Atmos or DTS-X. If you're looking for the very latest object-based audio formats, you'll be disappointed. The V35 is built around traditional 5.1-channel surround, which is still great for most content but isn't future-proofed for the newer immersive audio tracks that are beginning to appear on streaming services. So, who should walk away with the V35? If you have a medium-sized living room, a 1080p or 4K TV that you already use for movies, and you value a clean, cable-free look without having to tinker with calibrations, this system checks a lot of